Hey guys, it's Neil again from Heart of Texas Armory. Today I want to bring you guys a video discussing these new Islander watches from Mark over at longislandwatches.com. Here I am at the website. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with longislandwatches.com. I personally have never ordered nothing from them, but I've heard nothing but good things. Now, most of you guys are also familiar with the cancellation, the discontinuation of the Seiko SKX, which in my opinion is a horrible decision by Seiko. I've got a full video on this and also the new Seiko 5 sports watches, which I feel are just terrible because they basically neutered the Seiko SKX, came out with it as a replacement for the canceled original SKX, thinking everybody would be happy. I think it's universally disliked. I mean, they do have some interesting color combinations, but overall that watch is terrible because it's just a neutered SKX. The water resistance is 100 meters, no screw down crown, no sapphire crystal upgrade. The only thing it has going for it is the upgraded movement, which personally I don't care about. But anyways, if I don't want to go into that too much, y'all can watch that video on my channel if you're interested for more detail on that. Today we're going to be talking about these Islander watches. So what are they? So yes, we have the cancellation of the SKX, at least temporarily. Hopefully they'll bring it back at some point. But for the time being, there is a hole in the market for all the people that buy the SKX or have bought or wanted to buy, which is a very popular watch. There's a hole. So Mark came out with this watch here, which is basically his in-house watch here that is an upgrade to the SKX, because there are some key upgrades here which we'll talk about. So some things I really like about this watch, some things I'm not too much of a fan of, and we'll discuss that here. And I would also love to hear your thoughts on this as well. So definitely down in the comment section, leave me your thoughts on this watch, what you think of it, improvements Mark could make for the future. So let's look at the upgrades first, some of the things I really like. So one, he's upgraded the crystal here to sapphire, and this is a flat sapphire crystal with AR coating. So that's a good upgrade, definitely over Hardlex. Hardlex is tough stuff, everybody knows that, but it does scratch. So sapphire, great upgrade. We've also got a upgraded movement here. So you can see the movement NH36, you know, the NH36 and 35, two of the more popular movements that are used in micro brands. So makes sense for him to go with that movement here in this watch. And the NH36, of course, has the day-date complication, just like the original SKX. That was a good choice. And that does give you, of course, it's an automatic movement, hand wind, and hacks, which is good. We do have a screw-down crown. Well, there is a screw-down crown, but a screw-down case back, which is nice. The water resistance here is 200 meters. So that's pretty solid. We'll talk about that more in detail in a minute. We do have a ceramic loomed insert here, which is pretty cool. Personally, I'm not a big fan of ceramic inserts. I just think they're too glossy, and I kind of like the aluminum ones because they patina, they age, they pick up scratches. I like that look, but I'm sure most of you guys are a big fan of these ceramic inserts, and this is Lume, which is nice. So that's a look at some of these upgrades. Oh, and there's also a drill lugs on the case, which is nice. So do like that as well. So good upgrades here. This kind of fills a niche in the market here for people that want an SKX right out of the box that has these upgrades. So really smart of Mark bringing this out. I think the watch will do well for him, but there are a few things that I would like to see him upgrade maybe in the future. So here we are at his site. You can see there's two models right now currently out that he's announced. There will be more coming out apparently. So I'm sure there'll be different color ways and also maybe some different bezels, maybe some other things he might come out with. But we got two here. So one with the standard kind of traditional dive style bezel. That's the one that I like. And then there's also this one with the 12-hour bezel too, which is kind of interesting. That one is currently out of stock. I think it will be available probably soon, maybe within the month. This one here on the left, the dive style bezel, is currently available, but he actually went out of stock recently. But he will be getting more in. But that one has been released already. But you can see these sold out very quick for him. I think he announced this watch a couple days ago, and he does have a YouTube video of the announcement, I suggest you watch that of him, and we'll kind of look at some of the stuff from that. So one thing I'll mention too is the case here is pretty much a SKX case. It's aftermarket, of course, but all your aftermarket SKX parts, your hands, your bezel inserts, bezels, case backs should work with this watch. So that was smart that he did that. So here's a look at Mark here over at LongIslandWatches.com. Let me get a better picture of him here. That's not very flattering. Hold on one second, guys. Let me see if we can get a better picture of him. If not, we'll just continue on. Well, I can't get a big... I'm sorry, Mark. I can't help you out here. Let me see if there's a better picture of him. There you go. So that's Mark there. Good guy, of course. Good customer service. I know a lot of people like his website. So let's look at this in a little more detail. So here's a look at the two watches in his hands. This again from his YouTube channel, his video. He announced it here. So introduction to Islander brand of watches. That's what you need to search for. I'll try to leave a link down below. So they do look nice. We'll do a close-up here. Here's a look at the dial, so we can see what the watch looks like kind of close up. Overall, the dial is well done. You can see applied indices here, which is nice. Day-date complication. Standard SKX handset here, which is a good choice, although I would have probably preferred the pip to be on this side, but of course this here is a SKX handset, so that's why the pip is on the opposite side. We do have his logo here near 12 o'clock. Not the biggest fan of that logo personally. Looks a little plain, but that is his logo, his branding, so it makes sense to put it on there. Maybe a applied logo would be a nice upgrade to this in the future. I do like that he's got minimal text here, just automatic and 200. That's a good thing. And the centering here, the bezel, everything lines up. Everybody knows the SKX has always struggled with that. You can get ones that everything lines up. You can get them where everything's all centered too. So hopefully all of his watches will have good centering on the chapter ring, the indices, and the bezel. This one looks to be perfect, which is nice. So that's a look at the close-up of the dial and bezel, and you can see here's the insert, that ceramic insert. Not the biggest fan of that personally, but it does look nice. You can also, one quick thing, you can see there is some AR coating on this, that blue kind of hue. Personally, I don't need that, particularly on a flat sapphire crystal. So it makes sense on a domed crystal, but flat sapphire really doesn't reflect. I have plenty of watches in my collection that have flat sapphire crystals, and there's no need for AR. So I would have preferred to save some money, go with the aluminum insert, save some money, go knock off the AR coating, and put the money into some areas of the watch or lower the price. And that's one thing too we'll look at real quick. The price on these, $299, pretty good deal for what you get here. Continuing on, let's look at the case back here. And you can see the watch case is all polished. The case back is also polished. So I probably would have preferred to have seen this watch with a brushed case, and hopefully in the future he'll come out with a few variants that do have the brushed case in addition to the polished, but it is what it is right now. And then in regards to the water resistance, this watch does have 200 meters of water resistance, which is solid, but I definitely would have preferred him to bump that up to 300 meters of water resistance with beefier gaskets, or get it with the ISO certification, stick with the 200 meters like the original SKX. Of course, that would cost more money to get that ISO certification, but if you get a watch with that certification, you are guaranteed to have a watch that will perform right out of the box. It's not going to leak. It has gone through the additional tests, the shock test, the waterproof test. So I like seeing that ISO certification. That's one of the things I love about the original SKX. This watch here, I'm sure is going to hold up just fine. You could probably go scuba diving with it, but depending on the quality control with these watches, there are going to be some out there that get some pinched gaskets and some other things that could cause potential leaks. So I would have liked to have seen the water resistance bumped up to the 300 meters with the better gaskets, or go ahead and get it ISO certified. That is a engraving of Long Island. Mark is from there. That's where he's located, so that makes sense. But I have to say that the case back is a little plain. It looks a little cheap. Maybe he could engrave that a little nicer, a little deeper in future releases. Not a terrible case back design. It really doesn't matter because you don't really see that. But I do like watches that have more detailed engravings on the case back. So maybe he could look into that Everything else looks good. You can see solid end links here on the bracelet, fat spring bars, which is always good, like the original SKX. So nice that he went with that. There's a look at the crown. It doesn't look like it's signed, but you of course can get aftermarket stuff if you need for that. Continuing on here, here's a look at the bracelet. Now this is an area I think he can improve. The bracelet looks to be solid, you know, of course solid end links, solid bracelet, but solid as in that it's probably well built, comfortable on the wrist. It does use screw-in links, screw-in pins here. I would have been fine with push pins, save a little money there, but probably most of y'all would prefer the screw-in links. But the one thing I'll mention is you can see here, this is a press clasp. And the clasp looks well done. We'll see if we can get a better view of it here. But it is not machined, so definitely room for improvement. I think at $300, there's a look at that press clasp. A lot of us here at $300 would have preferred a milled clasp. I know I would have. Not a huge negative because it's going to be comfortable. It's going to be lightweight, and the clasp, you know, has the double release here and the standard dive safety clasp over the top, but should have been probably milled. So a little disappointed in that. But overall, the bracelet looks nice. I personally would have preferred a nice Jubilee, but you know, the kind of oyster style bracelet does look nice too. Here's a look at the Lume. So the Lume looks to be very solid. Lumed ceramic insert bezel, which is a nice touch. I personally don't need that, but a lot of y'all like that. The one thing I'll mention here is it looks like the Lume on the hands is quite a bit brighter in intensity compared to the rest of the watch. If anything's going to be brighter, you want it to be the hands, but I would like to see the indices match the intensity of the hands here. That would have been preferable. So maybe in the future he can look at tightening up that Lume application with wherever these are being made. I'm assuming over in China, but he can maybe bump that up just a little bit on the indices and get the Lume a little brighter. I'm sure this Lume will be on par with Seiko. It's certainly not better than Seiko, but it ought to be, you know, close or a little under Seiko Lume Bright. So Lume overall is fairly solid. And the last thing here we'll mention, here's a look at it on wrist. He has a 6.75 inch wrist he's mentioned. So you know, the Seiko SKX with the dimensions, the 42 millimeter case, 46 lug to lug, and I think 14 millimeters thick on his watch, which is a little thicker than the original SKX. Yeah, 14 millimeters, and that's just because that NH36 is a little thicker than the original movement in the SKX. So would have liked to seen that a little thinner, but it is what it is because of that upgrade in the movement. But one thing I'll mention here on the bracelet again, you can see he has protruding end links here. So the articulation is done right here. I would prefer to see that here because you can see the watch is protruding over his wrist. He has a 6.75 inch wrist. That protrusion of the end links makes the watch wear a little bigger. So the standard SKX on Jubilee wears fairly small because it conforms to your wrist a lot better. That short lug to lug distance here is only 46 millimeters, so it fits your wrist. Now you're adding in his bracelet with that protruding. It adds 2 to 3 millimeters to that, so it's basically gonna in effect wear like a 48, 49 maybe millimeter lug to lug, which is a shame. So maybe in the future he can upgrade that bracelet, get better end links here, and also go with the milled clasp. But overall, guys, I think this is a really nice watch that he's released here. I think it's going to sell really good. Obviously it's sold out pretty quick here, so it is selling good for him, but there is room for improvement. So I'm a big fan of the watch. I like what Mark did here. There's a hole in the market, and he built this watch to fill that hole. So that was smart business decision by him. But certainly there are rooms for improvement. I think he could probably lower the price a little bit if he cuts back on some of these unneeded upgrades. You don't need AR on a flat sapphire, in my opinion. There's really no need for ceramic. Go with the aluminum, save money. Put that money back into the bracelet, get a better bracelet, maybe upgrade the case back engraving slightly, and or lower the price. And that's my thoughts on this watch. It looks cool. I don't know if I'm going to pick one up because I have a standard stock Seiko SKX 007. Love that watch. I really don't see a need for this, but a lot of people are going to be happy with this. And like I said, I want to hear your thoughts on this watch. So leave your comments and suggestions for Mark too in the comments. So hopefully he'll either see this or enough people will reach out to him that maybe he can make some of these upgrades like I mentioned. But anyways, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Y'all take care.